Constant rolling blackouts has made South Africans anxious and on edge. Power bank company Adoozy has conducted a survey to find out what ranks highest on the list of concerns. Spoiled food is one, and devices running out of power among some of the main concerns. But there's a positive spin, though, with more people opting to go to gym, and we'll find out why from Adoozy Head of Marketing, Mathabo Sekhonyana. Good morning, good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us. So maybe let's start on the positive spin in terms of people opting to go to gym. Is it because the gyms, especially if it's a mega gym, would have a backup power system, often hot water, and I'm speaking for myself, in the event where your area has got load shedding?
So I think it's definitely twofold, and thank you so much for having me today. I think the first thing is gyms do have kind of that backup system. A lot of these mega gyms also have other facilities, so you can sit down, have a meeting, connect with friends, that kind of thing. But then another thing is if, depending on the stage that we're in, of course, but if you've got 4 or 5 hours of load shedding, it's very difficult, even if you've got backup sources of power, what do you do with that time? So in general, at the beginning of the year, we see a spate around people saying, oh, for this year, I'm going to go to the gym more, etc. But with load shedding, we're seeing that has, carried on into the rest of the year.
Okay, and that's a good thing because we do advocate for healthy lifestyle and, keeping in shape and all of those things. But I think the pressure is often if you work remotely and you do have deadlines or reports that you have to submit, the employer is not necessarily, shouldn't, suffer because you don't have consistent electricity. Do you think that's one of the concerns as well, or one of the reasons why people go to gym?
I think 100%. So one of the findings that we found in the Adoozy survey is that 54% of people are saying that their smartphone is the device they rely on the most. And I think a big part of that is that work from anywhere culture, where your boss expects you to be able to be found online, etc.
And especially for meeting, if you have impromptu meetings or, as I mentioned, there are reports that are supposed to be submitted. But what about your domestic or home appliances? I've heard reports around your fridge not working properly. And also, if you don't have enough power to charge your mobile device, that in itself is a huge frustration.
100%. I think what was very interesting in the findings was people saying the concerns that they had outside of just power. So, for example, if you don't have power, people are concerned about their food getting spoiled. People are concerned about, their televisions, which are switching off and for in some cases even getting damaged because of the load shedding hitting them at, these moments.
And we now saying that there are options. You've got your independent power suppliers. You can even use a generator, inverter, but the cost also limits how many people can actually access this backup power.
100%. I think, when we look at the Adoozy survey results, we see that 70% of people are saying that they don't have backup power at home. And the main cause that they're citing is the cost of that. I think even if you look at the middle class of South Africans, load shedding is really one of those things that has just added that additional pinch in people's pockets.
And load shedding, when it comes to small, medium enterprises in the manufacturing space in particular, having to lay off some of the labor purely because people are essentially sitting around and there is no processes when it comes to the automation or the manufacturing space. So your survey, looking at the concerns that we have, job security, I'm sure, is also one of them.
100%. And I think, again, it goes back to that work from anywhere culture, where if you are unable to charge your devices, for a lot of people, that means a loss of income. When you're looking at brick and mortar kind of stores, it's the same thing where we're even seeing big retail chains saying, if there's load shedding, we simply will not be able to trade. And for those who do have generators and backup power, they are losing thousands and thousands of rands on the daily because of this issue.
Yeah, while we also appreciate research and surveys being conducted, especially as a barometer on checking on the well-being of South Africa and your mental state, load shedding has just caused another unnecessary angst or anxiety amongst people. Did you find that the respondents were also reflecting on that to say it's not only about your appliances, the food spoiling, but it's also just about your psyche?
100%. I think, there's a sort of culture in our society right now around kind of a response culture where we feel as though you've got to respond to the messages immediately. You've got to connect with your colleagues, your work, your play immediately. And a lot of our respondents in our previous survey, their feeling was, if my phone is off, there is a sense of anxiety, there is a sense of foreboding. And that definitely has an impact on someone's mental health.
Okay. And what are the solutions, though? And notwithstanding limited disposable income, or where people feel, look, we just have made do with the load shedding situation. Thank goodness we haven't experienced load shedding as much for the past week or so, which is very amazing. Many people saying they don't know what to do with themselves because we've come from stage 4, 6, 8, and there was a possible stage 16 as well. So what do you do when you have limited resources and yet you want to, continue with your life?
So I think it's incredibly unfortunate that we are, discussing, what to do in the worst case scenario. So I think a lot of it is, there's been a lot of conversation on social media, for example, around how we have to almost cook like we're on MasterChef, right? And it's a lot of those things. So I guess the thing is plan, plan, plan. So the first thing is looking at the devices you have and how do you maximize on that power. So for example, if you're looking at your cell phone, which like we said is the device that people concern themselves the most when there is load shedding, you don't have to charge your phone to 100%. You actually get more battery life if you charge it up to around 80 or 90%. A second part of that is looking at how you can maximize on the devices that you do have on. So for example, making sure that your laptop is always charged to 100% so you can plug in other devices and use that kind of power. A third part of that is, and a lot of our respondents are saying that the thing that they use the most is a power bank. Obviously, as a mobile power bank rental network, what we're going to say is rent a power bank that's already fully charged. If not, buy a power bank and ensure that that is fully charged ahead of time. In terms of your cooking, make sure that you're aware of what your load shedding schedule is and make sure that you are following up with that in terms of the things that you need to plan in your house. And also, I guess back to the gym thing that we spoke about earlier is making sure that things can last you a long time. So meal planning. How do you cook 2 or 3 days in advance of food, especially since a lot of our respondents are saying, I'm concerned that my food is going off. I'm concerned about the financial strain that causes on me and my family.